Hare Krishna, everyone. We will just give maybe 30 seconds more for it to be 8 p.m. before we get started. I'm hoping you all are seeing my screen with the Chrome browser, correct? Just thumbs up like this. Okay, thank you. I'm going to do this bhajan, continue from yesterday. क्रीडन्तमन्तरजमात्मनं स्वं सामं वयस्यै पशुपालबालै प्रेम्णा यशोदा प्रजुहाव कृष्णं गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति यशोदया गाढमुलूकलेन गोखण्डपाशेन निबध्यमानं रुरोदमन्दं नवनीतभोजी गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति निचङ्गणेकं कणकेलिलोलं गोपीगेहित्वा नवनीतगोलम् आमर्दयत्पाणितलेन नेत्रे गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति गृहे गृहे गोपवधू कदम्बा सर्वे मिलित्वा समवाययोगे पुण्यानि नामानि पठन्ति नित्यम् गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति मन्दारमाले वदनाभिरामं बिम्बाधरे पूरितवेणुनादं गोपी जनमध्य संस्थं गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति 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 उत्थाय गोप्यो पररात्रभोगे स्मृत्वा यशोदा सुतबालकेलिं गायन्ति प्रोच्चे दधिमन्तयन्त्यो गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति जग्दोऽथ दत्तो नवनीतपिण्डो गृहे यशोदा विचिकित्सयन्ति उवाच सत्यं वद हे मुरारे गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति अभ्यर्च्य गेहं युवती प्रवृद्धा प्रेमा प्रवाहा दधि निर्ममन्ता गायन्ति गोप्यो तसखी समेता गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति क्वचित् प्रभाते दधिपूर्णपात्रे निक्षिप्यमन्तं युवती मुकुन्दम् आलोक्य गानं विविधं करोति गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति क्रीडापरम्भो जनमज्जनार्थं हितैषिणी स्त्री तनुजं यशोदा आजूहवत्प्रेम परिप्लुताक्षी गोविन्ददामोदरमाधवेति Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, 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 Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to another wonderful, auspicious, glorious day of Damodara Daily Delights. We are here again to do the Damodara Ashtakam and share a nice pastime of Lord Sri Krishna by the wonderful Gita Wise students. Today we have Sarayu, 6th grader, who will be doing Damodara Ashtakam with her brother accompanying her in the Mridanga. We also can see there Damodara deity beautifully decorated with flowers. They're going to offer Arati and we all will sit back and relish the Ashtakam while singing it with devotion. Over to you, Sarayu. Please take it.
Namami Sharam Sachidanandarupam Prasad Kundaram Gokule Gajamanam Yashoda Biyo Lokaradavamana Paramishta
you, Sariyu. Excellent. Nice. The Mridanga added a lot of melody to the whole bhajan, the Ashtakam singing. Good job. Very nice. Thank you to both of you, Samanyu and Sariyu.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll now move on to the next part. Actually, I had invited Rasagna. For some reason, I thought today nobody signed up for Bhajan Ashtakam. And I had invited Rasagna too. So Rasagna, please excuse me. And if possible, it's tomorrow that nobody signed up for the Ashtakam. So if you can come tomorrow and do it, that'll be great. And thank you for doing the Aarti. We spotlighted you while you were doing the Aarti, Rasagna. And we also spotlighted Prakash Garu while he was doing the Aarti. So if you want to be spotlighted, please do Aarti while we are singing. Again, it's not mandatory. I'm just adding some fun to the whole thing, right? Excitement. So now we'll move on to Aishwarya. She will be doing the Aishwarya. You want to turn on your camera? Now let me see if I can see you. Can you speak, Aishwarya? So that okay. There you go. Hey, Aishwarya, go ahead. I have the share screen option already. So introduce yourself and start presenting your pastime.
Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I'm Aishwarya. I'm currently a 10th grader, and I have been attending Bhagavad Gita classes for about 5 years now, has it been? And going to these classes has learned me a lot about like myself, my surroundings, and how Krishna is always with us, and he is our eternal friend. Like no matter how many friends we have, or how many pass by, like, or how many good grades we've achieved or anything, our devotion and our love and Krishna's eternal friendship to us is like the most valuable thing. So today I'll be presenting a pastime. It is the pastime Mother Yashoda binds Lord Krishna. And so it starts off as when one day, after seeing all the maidservants being engaged in their other work, Mother Yashoda decides to churn some some yogurt into delicious butter for Krishna. While she churns the butter, she's singing the childhood pastimes of Krishna and thinking about Krishna at the same time. And at that time, Krishna appeared at where Mother Yashoda was churning her butter, and said he was hungry. He wanted her to stop churning the butter and feed him first. Being Mother Yashoda and being loving and as kind as she is, she said, obviously, with her eternal love for Krishna, and she stopped churning the butter and she took him on her lap and started feeding him. And while Krishna was drinking the milk, Mother Yashoda smiled at him and enjoyed like the beauty of her child. And then suddenly she heard like the milk that was in the stove in the other room began to boil over, and to stop the milk from spilling, Mother Yashoda has to put aside Krishna, and she ran to the stove. Left in that state by his mother, Krishna became very angry, and his eyes and lips became red in rage. He pressed his teeth and lips together, and taking a piece of stone, he immediately broke the butter pot that Mother Yashoda was churning. He took the butter out of it, and with false tears in his eyes, he began to eat it in another secluded place, as illustrated by this photo. And in the meantime, when Krishna was eating the butter in a secluded spot, Mother Yashoda returned to the churning place, and putting aside the overflowing milk, she came back and she saw the broken pot of churning butter where the churning yogurt had been kept. She couldn't find Krishna, so she was like, oh, Krishna might have done this. After looking all over the place for Krishna, she finally finds him sitting on a big wooden grinding motor, which was kept upside down, and he was taking butter from a pot that was hanging from the ceiling on a swing and feeding it to the monkeys. Krishna saw her coming towards him with a stick in her hand, and he immediately got down from the grinding motor and began to flee in fear. Mother Yashoda chased him to all corners, trying to capture Krishna. In other words, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who was never caught by the yogis and spectators. One second. Was playing just like a little child. Sorry. For such a great devotee as Mother Yashoda. When he was caught, Krishna was on the verge of tears. The child saw his mother's face while she stood over him, and his eyes became restless from fear. In order to punish him, she thought to bind his hands with some rope. She attempted to bind him to a wooden grinding motor, but when she tried, she found that the rope she was using was too short, by 2 inches. She gathered more rope from the house and added to it, but she still found that she had the same shortage. In this way, she connected all the ropes available at home, but when the final knot was added, she saw that the rope was still 2 inches short. This was part of Krishna's plan, because Krishna knows everything, and Krishna, being as magnanimous as he is, isn't bound by anything. And while attempting to bind Krishna, Mother Yashoda became tired, so tired that the garland from her head had fallen down. Lord Krishna, appreciating the hard labor of his mother, being compassionate upon her, agreed to be bound by the ropes. After Mother Yashoda had bound Krishna to the motor and became engaged in other household affairs, Krishna observed the 2 Yamala Arjuna trees, which were actually Nala Kuvara and Manikriva, 2 sons of Kuvera, who had been condemned by Narada Muni to become trees. Krishna, by his mercy, now began to proceed towards the trees to fulfill the desire of Narada Muni. This story will be continued in the pastime, the deliverance of Nanda Kuvara and Manikriva. The key takeaways from this story is that Krishna is the supreme bestower of all kinds of liberation to his devotees. The Supreme Personality of Lordhead, who is known as the son of Yashoda and Nanda Maharaja, is never so completely known to the yogis and spectators, but is easily available to his devotees. The pure devotee surrenders himself unto the lotus feet of the Lord, who may either protect or vanquish the devotee. But for his part, the devotee never forgets his own position of surrender. Similarly, the Lord also feels transcendental pleasure by submitting himself to the protection of the devotee. This was exemplified by Krishna's surrender onto his mother Yashoda. As Sahasra talked about yesterday, I feel like art in every form is a perfect way of expressing the story, because it really conveys to an audience how the story is done and how magnanimous Krishna is. So one form of art is writing a poem. And this is a poem I found that was done by an anonymous devotee. And it says, chasing after him to go, wrong to break, pot to know. After Krishna was caught, many adjoining ropes were brought, but still Yashoda, not able to succeed, every time 2 widths short indeed, because love was pure and never proud, that loving pastime Supreme Lord allowed. This shows Krishna's surrender onto Mother Yashoda, surrendering to Mother Yashoda, as he does to his devotees that are faithful and loving. Thank you for listening. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Aishwarya. I love the whole narration of the main theme of this month, which is Damodara pastime. And you gave nice details of how Mother Yashoda finally caught him and tied him up, and how her garland from her hair fell down, and all the details of how he was stealing the butter, giving to monkeys and all. We had the darshan of the entire pastime in our eyes, in front of our eyes today. Thank you. And the poem part was really good. I think that's very creative idea. So now I got an idea based on that poem. How about all the students, Gita Vice students, also get creative? And based on what you have been hearing this 10 days, that's 10 days to 11 days, and next 18 days or 17 days, how would we all also come up with some poem? I mean, we might not be extraordinary poets or whatever, but let's try to be creative and come up with some nice poem on the pastime of Damodara in our own words. How many of the children here want to take up the challenge or take up that fun activity? You can just raise your Zoom hands. You just try. It doesn't have to be rhyming. It doesn't have to be like extraordinary vocabulary, but just putting your thoughts of this Damodara pastime in the form of words. That'll be, I think, good. At least I'm going to try. So let's see how many of you will try, and we all can share what we came up with at the end of this month on the last day. All right. I mean, we don't want to force if you all do not want to, but I think it's a fun thing to participate in. That's it. Thank you, Aishwarya, for the nice presentation. And now we'll move on to the next part, which is 8 minutes. We have a discussion on, was somebody talking?
He was asking, is there a prize for the best poem?
Oh, I think all poems will be best. So everybody is a winner who participates, regardless of whether they get a prize or not, because it's the expression of our love for Krishna, our understanding of this Damodara pastime. So just by attempting to write, that person becomes a winner. So is that okay with everyone? Okay, all right. So now we'll move on to the next part, which is discussing the second anga or the second path of bhakti, which is Kirtanam, which Suresh Prabhu yesterday gave us insight into what Kirtanam is, which means Kirti or Kirtana means in Sanskrit or translates to in English to glorification. So how is glorification done, or how does one do Kirtanam? Through the gift of speech, right? We all have the gift of speech. And the purpose of the speech that is given to us, unlike animals don't have this gift of speech, or even human beings, some of them don't have this gift. And we all are so blessed with this wonderful gift, which we take for granted, I think, and we use it for random purposes. We have to be very careful about this true and nice gift of speech as to what it is meant for. And as we all have been reiterating through these last 11 sessions and also in the future sessions, that there is a purpose for human life. And that purpose is to graduate from human life and go back home, right? And for that, Acharyas, Shastra, and Krishna himself have given us ways of how to graduate easily from this university of human beings, right? And we studied about, we discussed about Shravanam. Shravanam is the art of listening. We talked about how we have to be an engaged, active listener, which means we are very enthusiastic and curious, which is called Jignasa, right? When you are having curiosity and enthusiasm. And then you ask questions, you don't draw conclusions, you're not scared of being wrong while asking questions. So these were the various qualities or various techniques of the art of active listening. When we listen attentively, actively, especially the subject matter related to Lord Sri Krishna or his devotees or his pastimes, what happens? We are able to realize God or to understand God through the sense of hearing. That's why it is said that we can realize God through Shastra Chakshu. Shastra means scriptures, Chakshu means eyes. Through the eyes of scriptures, when it is narrated by experienced devotees who are practicing the instructions, and when they narrate those instructions to us, and when we hear attentively, those instructions enter our ears and they go into our heart. Now, generally, when we describe the emotion of love, we show a heart symbol, right? What does that mean? Does that mean the heart is filled with love? Does that mean when we open the heart and see, is there love inside? Can we see love? We don't see love. However, it is imagined that is a location of all these emotions a human being goes through. So this same location has other emotions like anger, lust, pride, greed, envy, jealousy. All these negative emotions also reside in that location. And when we attentively hear and the following thing that happens after hearing is speaking. Right? When we hear and when we speak, when we hear about the Lord and when we speak about the Lord, our heart gets rid of all these negative emotions, which are pride, anger, lust, greed, jealousy, enviousness, and all these negative emotions. And then what happens? We all know very well that Lord Shri Krishna resides in each and every one of our heart. Again, the same location where those emotions are present. So Krishna is always present there. However, we cannot feel his presence because that space or that place is contaminated with these negative emotions. But when we do attentive listening and use the gift of speech to glorify the Lord, these negative emotions get cleaned up or cleared from that place, and then Krishna as Paramatma manifests in our heart. And that is the goal of a true devotee, to be able to realize Krishna within, and through attentive listening and through glorification of Lord. So that is the purpose. If somebody asks, or if you want to really understand the purpose of why we should do Shravanam and Kirtanam, it's for our purification. Now, how do we Kirtanam? How do we do Kirtanam? For that, we have to understand that we have to engage the gift of speech in glorification. Glorification of whom? Glorification of Lord Shri Krishna and his devotees and his pastimes. We are repeating these things so that you children are listening attentively and are able to understand and remember these points. I see some of you are walking, some of you are not sitting straight. I advise you all to sit straight and focus on what we're doing here and listen, because it's going to benefit you all. Okay, so when we glorify Krishna, what happens? Generally, when we glorify other people or when somebody else glorifies us, what is meaning of glorification? Praising or talking good things about somebody. So when we start praising somebody or when somebody praises us, what happens? The person initially probably will feel good, but eventually what happens? The person starts feeling great. They start feeling even probably eventually proud also, and pride starts striking such person, right? However, when we glorify Lord Shri Krishna, it's not about Krishna we feeling good. We feel good, and we also clear the anarthas in our heart. That is the benefit, and that is the potency of glorifying Lord Shri Krishna. So when we glorify Krishna, we are benefiting ourselves because we clear the anarthas in our heart. And how do we glorify? What are the various methods of glorifying? For that, we have so many examples that have been given in Shastra. For example, in Bhagavatam, there are prayers of Bhishma Dev. Bhishma, when he left his body on the bed of arrows, he glorifies Krishna. And there is this entire Vishnu Sahasranama that he spoke. That is a wonderful and beautiful prayer glorifying Lord Shri Krishna. And again, Queen Kunti, she also glorifies when Krishna was leaving the kingdom of the Pandavas while after the entire war of Kurukshetra. There's a beautiful prayer, the prayer that we do at the beginning of Gita wise classes: Krishnaya Vasudevaya, Devaki Nandanaya Cha, Nanda Gopa Kumaraya, Govindaya, Namo Namaha. Then Namo Pankaja Maline, that prayer. Those two prayers are also Queen Kunti's prayers. And then there is Prahalad's prayers. There are so many prayers throughout Bhagavatam. So all these prayers are glorifying the Lord so that we purify our heart and our consciousness. So there's more to discuss about this gift of speech, how to get into the habit of speaking the right things which give auspiciousness to us and to the people around us, create an auspicious atmosphere around us. All those powerful things are there with the gift of speech, which we will discuss more in the eventual sessions. It's already 8:30. So we will stop here for today. We'll continue again tomorrow, same time, same place at 8 p.m. Until then, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna Hare Hare.
Hare Rama,
Rama
Rama,
Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
I hope all the kids are listening attentively and taking notes, because there's going to be a Kahoot on the last day of Damodara Daily Delights. And how do you know what was discussed in the previous classes if you were absent? Do you all know? How do you do that? We have the YouTube recordings on YouTube link. So go to the YouTube recordings and listen to the past sessions because the questions will come from the discussions that have been made in these sessions. Nothing outside of this. So please go watch and listen, take notes, and come prepared for the Kahoot exam. It's going to be on the last day of Damodara Daily. Okay. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Can we the meeting?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Happy Ekadashi. Hare Krishna.